Welcome to the Real Life English Podcast, where we help dedicated English learners just like you cultivate the courage, the confidence, and the skills that you need to understand real life native English, to communicate clearly with people from all around the world, and to make your life an epic global adventure. Now, are you ready to go beyond the classroom and start living your English? Can I get an aw, yeah?
Did you know that words in English can be different depending on the country you're visiting? Ethan and I have often spoken about these differences on the podcast, but today's episode is extra special. Not only will you learn about vocabulary differences between American and British English, but you'll also learn about different words in South African English with our special guest. So get ready to have a lot of fun laughing and learning with us today.
Aw, yeah, boys and girls, citizens of the world. This is Ethan from Real Life English, where we believe that listening to podcasts is a fun, natural, convenient, and
Inspiring.
way to learn English. So download this podcast and listen to it while you're stuck in traffic, riding on the bus, training your dog and cat, or even
Braaiing.
I'm joined here in the Global Studio, as always, first off by the lovely Andrea. How's it going, Andrea?
It's going good, thank you. I'm very excited for today's podcast episode.
Me too, because we have a new team member who has joined the team for a little over a week, and we thought that she would be a perfect addition to this week's podcast. So welcome to the Real Life English Podcast, Kase.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
And where are you joining us from?
I'm from Cape Town, South Africa.
Great. So you're almost directly south of us if we were to fly like a straight line down or something like that.
Yeah,
Then
absolutely.
we arrive in South Africa. It's definitely high on my list of places to visit. So maybe when the pandemic is over. And you mentioned that you could listen while you're braaiing or having a braai. What is a braai?
A braai is basically the South African version of barbecuing. We don't use gas though. We use charcoal and wood strictly, and something we call fire lighters or blitz. It's basically what you use to start the fire. So you need the blitz to get the fire going.
The blitz. I think in American English it might be like an igniter or a fire starter. Maybe it's like a really obvious name, but that's really interesting. I've never heard. I think blitz in American English just refers to like something in American football.
Yeah, the Blitz reminds me of a very difficult day, I think, during World War II as well, that happened in London. Yeah, so it's an interesting word.
So we're going to have a lot more differences like that in American, British, and South African English in today's podcast. I'm sure it'll be new to a lot of you. But before we get into that, we have a shout out to a very special listener out there.
So today's shout out comes from Neff. And they say, I have been using the app and listening to your podcasts for almost 4 months now, and I have to tell you that it's absolutely awesome. You guys not only have helped me improve my language skills, but also made me feel much more confident when speaking in English, since I have been putting into practice all the tips you have given us since then. Thank you very much for your support.
That's amazing. And they said it's an absolutely awesome way to learn English. I'm curious because awesome is super American. In the UK, you might say like brilliant. Is there an equivalent of that word in South African English?
Yeah, here we would probably say something like, oh, it's lekker. Like we say when something's really good, it's lekker. Yeah.
That comes from Dutch or from Afrikaans, right?
Afrikaans, that's exactly right. So we would say something is lekker when it's either fun or exciting, or it could be lekker if it's enjoyable, you know. So
Right. It's really funny because it reminds me of the word in German for delicious.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I thought, oh, it's tasty.
That's amazing. We're already getting into some really great differences. And thanks so much again, Neff, for taking the time to leave that. So if you're enjoying this podcast, be sure to go and download the Real Life English app in your favorite app store, and you can listen to this and many, many, many more episodes of our podcast with a full transcript and vocabulary. And as well, anytime and anywhere, speak with people from around the world at the touch of a button. And if you enjoy the experience, be sure to leave us a 5-star review so we can shout you out too. before we get into today's main topic, we have a burning question from another one of our listeners.
Yes, today's burning question was sent in from Julia in Poland. She says, "Hi, Real Life English. I've been using your app for a few months, and I want to thank you for all that you're doing for English learners from all around the world. I'm writing to you because I have a problem with using two words, historic and historical. I'm not really sure when I should use them, and I'm also interested if I can use them interchangeably. Thank you in advance, Julia."
Thanks so much, first of all, Julia, for your question. And before we get into the answer, Andrea, if any of our listeners also have a burning question, where can they send that?
So it would be amazing if you send in an audio stating your name and where you're from and your burning question, and then you can email it to me, andrea@reallifeglobal.com.
Awesome. So what is the difference between historic and historical?
Yeah, so historic means important or likely to be important in history. So it's easier to kind of understand these two words with some examples. So in a sentence, you could say, "I feel that this is a historic moment for our country."
That's a perfect example. And then on the other hand, what would historical be?
So historical means related to the study of things from the past. So you could say that you love reading historical novels, or maybe archaeologists found a large number of historical objects when they excavated the field. So it's related more to the study of things from the past rather than describing an event.
Right. So that said, they are not exactly interchangeable. So you wouldn't say probably like a historic novel, because that would be a novel that could be important or could be remembered for a long time. Whereas if you're probably actually wanting to say a historical novel, meaning like a novel, or historical fiction, meaning a book that would be about something that took place in the past.
Exactly, yeah. So really you kind of have to be careful, like think about the meaning of each one so that you can select it carefully.
Exactly. And that's a great topic for today, because obviously English language originally came from the UK, but now it's spoken in many different countries as a first language, as a second language, as a lingua franca. And that has all to do with history. So getting into today's main topic, all about English, differences from the UK, the US, and South Africa.
So South Africa is an incredibly diverse country in terms of race, religion, culture, and especially language. So here we have 11 official languages, and as you can imagine, all of them influence how people speak and understand English. In my case, I am bilingual, so I speak English as my first language, but I also speak Afrikaans, which is very similar to Dutch. And I just want to say, though, that with my answers today, I cannot possibly represent every South African, but I will try my best to at least represent Cape Town. Here we use a lot of Afrikaans and English sort of mixed together, and it's very common for people to use words that are sort of a combination of the two languages.
So the first one we're going to talk about is a type of footwear that's really comfortable, that you could wear every day. Maybe you could wear them to the gym or when you go out walking and things like that. So what would you call these, Ethan?
Probably sneakers, or maybe tennies, which is short for tennis shoes.
And Cassie, what would you call them in South Africa?
We would probably call them tackies. So tackies, yeah, I guess they come from tennis shoes and something else. But yeah, definitely tackies. There's no other word we would use to describe those type of shoes. Tackies.
Wow, that's such a different word.
The A sometimes becomes takkies because there's so many different dialects here. So tacky or ticky.
Makes me think of technology if you say like techie.
Yeah. I was thinking too, if tacky is like corny or cheesy. So if you said, you could say like someone had some, in American English would be like some tacky sneakers or something, which would be like maybe
really colorful or with like some weird pieces on them. It's like something that really stuck out. Could you say taki takis in South Africa?
Yeah, people would understand exactly what you mean. Taffy taffies, yeah.
Well, it's different in the UK as well. We would call these trainers.
That one I have heard before. I think on this very podcast.
Yeah, most probably.
They're not as fun as the South African version, though. The American and
no, I do like the South African.